Stories from Taylor Swift's Time Magazine interview. When Taylor Swift was 17, she says that she had booked the biggest opportunity of her life so far, a highly coveted spot opening for country superstar Kenny Chesney on tour. This was going to change my career, she remembers. I was so excited, but a couple weeks later, Swift arrived home to find her mother, Andrea, sitting on the front steps of their house. She was weeping, Swift says. Her head was in her hands as if there had been a family emergency. Through sobs, Andrea told her daughter that Chesney Tour had been sponsored by a beer company. Taylor was too young to join. I was devastated, Swift says, but some months later at Swift's 18th birthday party, she saw Chesney's promoter. He handed her a card from Chesney that read, as Swift recalls, "I'm sorry that you couldn't come on tour, so I wanted to make it up to you." With the note was a check. It was for more money than I'd ever seen in my life, Swift says. I was able to pay my band bonuses. I was able to pay for my tour buses. I was able to fuel my dreams. Swift's interviewer notes, listening to Swift share this on a clear fall afternoon in her New York City apartment, I'm struck by how satisfying the story is. There are high stakes at the outset, there are details vivid and sensory, there's a twist that flips the action on its head, and there's a happy ending for its hero. It takes her only about 30 seconds to recount this, but those 30 seconds contain an entire narrative world. Taylor Swift on her 20 years in the industry. I've been raised up and down the flagpole of public opinion so many times in the last 20 years, she says as we tuck into a cozy den off the kitchen to talk. Dude, I have such FOMO. I have such fucking FOMO. And she kicks off her shoes and curls up onto the sofa. I've been given a tiara, then had it taken away. She is Taylor Swift is always seemingly something, unguarded in conversation, reflective about both where she's been and where she finds herself now. It feels like the breakthrough moment of my career happening at 33. It's her Jesus year. And for the first time in my life, I was mentally tough enough to take what comes with that. This is her story, even if she's now so high that it's hard to believe she was ever low. Same. That was for the girls. This is the proudest and happiest I've ever felt, and the most creatively fulfilled and free I've ever been, Swift says. Ultimately, we can convolute it all we want or try to overcomplicate it, but there's only one question. Here she adopts a booming voice. Are you not entertained? She is, oh my God. God, she is so neurodivergent. I've never related to a woman more. On the Eras Tour, I knew this tour was harder than anything I'd ever done before by a long shot. Swift says each show spans over 180 minutes, including 40 plus songs from at least 9 albums. There are 16 costume changes, pyrotechnics, and optical illusion in which she appears to dive into the stage and swim. And not one, but 2 cottagecore worlds, which featured an abundance of moss. This is interesting. So this is on how Taylor Swift prepared for the Eras Tour. In the past, Swift joked she toured like a frat guy. This time she began training 6 months ahead of the first show. Every day I would run on the treadmill, singing the entire set list out loud. Holy shit! Fast for fast songs and a jog or a fast walk for slow songs. Her gym, Dog Pound, created a program for her, incorporating strength conditioning and weights. Then I had 3 months of dance training because I wanted to get it in my bones. I wanted to be so over-rehearsed that I could be silly with the fans and not lose my train of thought. She worked with choreographer Mandy Moore, recommended by her friend Emma Stone, who worked with Moore on La La Land. Swift says learning choreography is not my strong suit. Doing that show with The Hangover, she says ominously, I don't want to know that world. Can you? Doing the Eras, she's so real for that. Swift sees the expense and effort incurred by fans as something she needs to repay for her Eras Tour. They had to work really hard to get the tickets. I wanted to play a show that was longer than they ever thought it would be because that makes me feel good leaving the stadium. Carrying an economy on your back is a lot for one person. After she plays a run of shows, Swift takes a day to rest and recover. I do not leave my bed except to get food and take it back to my bed and eat it there, she says. It's a dream scenario. I can barely speak because I've been singing for 3 shows straight. Every time I take a step, my feet go crunch, crunch, crunch from dancing in heels. Maintaining your strength through workouts between shows is key. I know I'm going on that stage whether I'm sick, injured, heartbroken, uncomfortable, or stressed. She says, "That's part of my identity as a human being now. If someone buys a ticket to my show, I'm going to play it unless we have some sort of force majeure." A heat wave in Rio de Janeiro caused chaos during Swift's November run as one fan, Ana Clara Benavides Machado, reportedly collapsed during the show and later died. Swift wrote on Instagram that she had a shattered heart. She rescheduled the next show because of the unsafe conditions and spent time with the Benavides Machado family at her final tour date in Brazil. I tell Swift that the show made me think of a meme that says, "Do not kill the part of you that is cringe, kill the part of you that cringes." Yes, she exclaims. Every part of you that you've ever been, every phase you've ever gone through was you working it out in that moment with the information you had available to you at the time. There's a lot to look back on like, wow, a couple years ago I might have cringed at this. You should celebrate who you are now, where you're going and where you've been. It's not lost on me that the two great catalysts for this happening were two horrendous things that happened to me, Swift says, and this is where the story takes a turn. The first was getting canceled within an inch of my life and sanity, she says plainly. The second was having my life's work taken away from me by someone who hates me. Okay, so Swift shows some things that she loves in her apartment. A Stevie Nicks Barbie that sits still boxed in her kitchen, sent to her by the artist. The framed note from Paul McCartney that hangs in her bathroom. Tiles around the fireplace that Swift found shopping in Paris with her mother. Connection to her family are everywhere, including a striking photo of their grandmother Marjorie, an opera singer and their inspiration for a track on her album Evermore. My dad, my mom, and my brother come up with some of the best ideas in my career, Swift says. I always joke that we're a small family business. So Taylor Swift on being replaced in the music industry. By the time an artist is mature enough to psychologically deal with the job, they throw you out at 29, typically. In the 90s and 2000s, it seems like the music industry just said, okay, let's take a bunch of teenagers, throw them into a fire, and watch what happens. By the time they've accumulated enough wisdom to do their job effectively, we'll find new teenagers. Swift went full throttle pop for 2014's 1989, putting her on top of the world, an imperial phase, she calls it. She didn't realize it would also give her much further to fall. Public sentiment turned, sniping about everything from her perceived overexposure to conspiracy theories about her politics. I had all the hyenas climb on and take their shots, she says. West wrote a song with vulgar lyrics about her and claimed that Swift had consented to it, which Swift denied. West's then wife, Kim Kardashian, released a video of a conversation between West and Swift that seemed to indicate that Swift had been on board with the song. The scandal was tabloid catnip. It makes Swift look like a snake, which is what people called her. She felt it was a career death, she says. Make no mistake, my career was taken from me. You have a fully manufactured frame job in an illegally recorded phone call, which Kim Kardashian edited, then put out to say to everyone, I was a liar, she says. That took me down psychologically to a place I've never been before. I moved to a foreign country. I didn't leave a rental house for a year. I was afraid to get on phone calls. I pushed away most people in my life because I didn't trust anyone anymore. I went down really, really hard. Kardashian wrote in a 2020 social media post that the situation forced me to defend him. Swift's next album, Reputation, featured snake imagery. The video for Look What You Made Me Do saw her killing off younger versions of herself. She remembers Reputation being met with uproar and skepticism. I thought that moment of backlash was going to define me negatively for the rest of my life, she says. She had also satisfied her record deal with Pochetta and knew she wanted out. The molecular chemistry of the At Old label was that every creative choice I wanted to make was second guessed, she says. I was really overthinking these albums. She met with Lucian Grange, the CEO of Universal Music Group, and Monty Littman, who runs Universal's top label, Republic Records, to talk about signing a deal that would give her more agency. Today, Grange is perhaps the most powerful executive in the music industry. Lucian and Monty basically said to me, whatever you turn in, we will be proud to put out. We give you 100% creative freedom and trust. It was exactly what she needed to hear most when the chips were down. That's really sweet, actually. Oh my God, I'm getting emotional.